Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. I'm your host, Julie Fairhurst, and today I'm here with Jo Ann Fawcett. Her name's right there. I don't know where I got Jennifer from. Jo Ann Fawcett. So thank you so much, Joanne, for being here.
You're
I would
welcome.
like to I would like to start off by just telling you a little bit about Joanne, and then we're going to dive into some questions with her. So, Joanne is an author, a speaker, whose story is one of survival, awakening, and choosing herself after decades of painful relationship patterns. Today, we're talking about toxic marriages, narcissistic abuse, breaking family patterns, learning to love yourself, and what it really takes to move from survival into a life that feels free, honest, and fully your own. Joanne, again, thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome. I've never been called Jennifer, but it's okay.
Oh, you know what? I have a Jennifer on the list.
It's
That's what
okay.
was in my head. So,
It
and
could have been worse.
it could have been worse. That's right.
No
Oh,
problem.
okay. So your story includes 7 marriages,
Yes.
abuse, divorce, loss, and eventually a powerful awakening. So when you look back now, where do you feel your story truly began?
Oh, let's see. Well, probably when I was a kid, I grew up in the 50s and 60s, normal suburbia, Leave It to Beaver, Donna Reed, all that stuff. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I just figured I'd grow up, I'd meet Mr. Right, I'd start having kids, life would be grand. And even though my family wasn't a Mormon, I joined the Mormon church when I was, like 10 or 12. And so again, I felt like, oh, I'm just going to meet Mr. Right and have this wonderful family, and I'll have all these kids because I want a ton of kids. Well, the universe knew better. And number one, I never met or married Mr. Right. Well, I maybe met one or two. It's like my favorite boyfriends are back in high school, but they're
Yeah.
it's like, okay. But just because you belong to the same church does not mean you're going to have a happy marriage. Because if you don't do the groundwork, it's going to fail before you get much of a chance. And the universe must have known something was going to happen because I had one kid instead of like the 9 or 12 that I wanted.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And
Well, yeah, go
I was going
ahead.
to say it's a good thing that I didn't have kids with every husband because that would have been a nightmare trying to be a single mom to a lot of kids. So,
Yes, yes, yes. Well, you've said that in each marriage you felt you were not enough.
right.
Where do you think that belief came from?
I'm not blaming my mom or anything, but I learned some codependent patterns from her because there is, and now that I've, worked on book 3 where it gets into the generational patterns, like my grandmothers and my mom, everybody kind of settled. They might have liked their person that they married, but it never sounded like that it was this great love. And people got married out of necessity and to get out of the house and things like that. And my dad was an alcoholic and he cheated on my mom. Not that we knew that till much later, but we knew. And there was a time when they were separated. So I saw her trying to placate and trying to say, well, where's dad? It's like, and then we're all worried. And it's like, how do I make my mom feel better? And so I kind of got in I understood that, you want to please the man and you want to, kind of follow their agenda and let them take the lead. And so I did fall into some codependent patterns, and that didn't serve me well being married to all those people because I kept, getting into the same patterns. It's like these guys that felt they were all that and needed to be in charge. And one of them, my daughter's father, was a had substance abuse issues. So, it's like, oh, okay, I'm a Mormon. I've never gone to a liquor store in my life, and here I'm buying alcohol for him. Oh, and
Mm.
now, I'm driving with him so he can go buy pot, and pot's illegal in California in the 70s. It's like, what am I doing? But you want to please the guy. And
Yes.
with husband number 7, even though he was, I was out of the church um, by then, or I left the church when I met husband number seven, and he was in prison, so that's a whole nother dynamic. But he's the narcissist, so that was the longest marriage, 20 plus years with him. But it's like as
Wow.
long as you're just kind of keeping him happy and following the flow and following all his great suggestions, life is great, and you don't realize that it's not until you do. So
Right. Wow.
yeah,
Wow. That's you. So talking about your seventh husband,
yeah,
so you said he was a narcissist
yes,
and you lived in a relationship with over 20 years.
yep.
What finally helped you name what was happening? When did you sort of wake up and realize?
This was great. It's like right as COVID was hitting in early 2020, and before the major shutdown, there was a weekend that March where I was going to take I took a psychic development course, and I think COVID was there, but we might have been wearing masks. I don't even know yet, but it
Mm,
was early days of COVID, so. But I was doing this nice psychic development course with a person that I know, and it was going. The weekend was great, and then like our last exercise was like, let's cut the energetic cord from something that's not working for you. And I thought, well, and I hadn't thought of divorce, so I thought, well, could the way the relationship is, because by then I was going, I don't think my needs are getting met.
yeah.
Clearly. And it was like, and I hadn't talked to him about it yet, but it's like, I just said, I need to cut the cord from the way the relationship is now. And I did. And it's like, okay, that felt good. And then I was getting the courage to start telling, okay, now I've got some guts and I'm going to start telling him what's not working. Well, then COVID shut down everything and there was no prison visiting for a year. So all I could do
Mm,
was start writing about it. And he doesn't take criticism well at all. They don't. And they don't, you can't tell them that they're wrong in any shape, way, shape, or form. And so it was very difficult for him to accept, agree, but he kind of looked at it, but he never really agreed with anything I was saying because he would just throw it back in my face. But that early 2020, and then, I was living in an affluent community in Northern California. It was his house where he grew up, but it was falling apart and I was paying for everything. And it was big and lonely. And so COVID, it's like, I'm tired. It's like, my daughter said, why don't you just move to Portland and be part of our quarantine bubble? It's like, fine. And I had a house sitter who, that didn't work out after a while, but that's another story. But I had a house sitter. So I thought I was leaving the house. I moved up here so I could be around family, and I was starting this communication. And then I was walking in the neighborhood and I saw a sign for the person that would become my therapist. And she said her practice specialized in narcissistic abuse. It's like, oh, that's what this is. That's
yeah.
the word because I'd never named it. I just thought,
Yeah.
well, this is another crappy marriage, and you can't talk to him about it. So
Yes. Wow.
that really
Well,
helped.
well, for listeners who may be questioning their own relationships, what are some of the red flags that you
Sure.
wish you'd known earlier?
Yeah, and just for for the listeners, a narcissist can be anybody in your life. It's not always your romantic partner. It could be your child, your coworker, your boss, your friend, your parent. It could be anybody. But it's like, are they, they don't take criticism. They always have to be right. They gaslight you. They make you feel like you're always in the wrong. Well, there's not always there was no physical violence with him, but there can be. I know other people who, their person's not only narcissistic, but they were violent. And they make you feel like you're crazy and you're nuts.
Mm.
And it's like, it's all in your head and you're just imagining it. And it was interesting because after I left and I started bringing up this stuff, and then I wrote my book about it. It was like, and then now I can read. It's like, and it was painful to go through that, but thankfully, because of that no visiting period during COVID, it's like we were writing back and forth and arguing, and it's like I had all this fodder now for what I used in my book. It's like he said all this crap to me. It's
Yes.
like, oh, now I can quote you, and I have it in writing, and it's like the last time I saw him in person, I go, you were really mean to me. And he goes, I don't remember that. It's like, of course you don't, but it's like I have it in writing. And I didn't tell
Yes.
him I was going to write a book because at that moment I didn't know I was. But it's
Right.
like,
Yes.
and now I look back at it and I just laugh. It's like, well, that's really silly of him to say stuff like that. Because when you hear it, it's like the good wife should be this. The good wife should do this. The good wife should be grateful that her husband has let her stay in his house in this nice neighborhood. I go, yes, but I need, this neighborhood needs a three income family to, maintain it. And it's like I was making good money as a bookkeeper. I had my own business, but it's like I can't maintain this huge house in this neighborhood and,
Yeah.
not and ever plan to retire. So it's like it was finally I was in my 60s by then, and it's like I'm never going to be able to retire. And that was a, punch in the gut because it's like, oh, I'm going to get out of prison. We're going to fix up the house. I'm going to take care of you. And I, finally realized it's like you have a life without parole sentence. It's going to be really hard for you to get out of prison legally.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be it's like, oh, I'll always be able to make money. It's like, so I kept realizing it's like
Mm,
all these things he said were lies.
hmm.
And there's a few things I still believe that he told me were true, but most of the things he told me to just keep me going on this, life is going to be grand when he gets out of prison. It's like we're lies, and he's still there.
So do you think that the narcissistic person actually believes what they're telling you?
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah, that's
they
what I
do.
was thinking when you were
Yes,
talking.
yeah, and I remember, I would tell him it's like I wrote him once, or one of the times I wrote, I was like, you're wrong. It's like, oh, nobody ever tells me I'm wrong. They always think I have all these great ideas. And my best friend, who was in prison with him and knew him for longer than I've known him, and they're still friends, but I would say, now he's been out for a while, and it's like, did he ever like, leave visiting from me and like then go back and just talk smack about me? Oh yeah. It's like, well, son of a gun. And it's like, and I go, did he sit around and just, did you guys always believe everything we say? No, but we just let him talk. It's like, okay. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy is smart and he's charming and he's a good worker, and, he has some very fine qualities. He's highly educated. He served in the military. He was a military hero. So I give him points for all that. But as a partner, no.
Mm, mm,
And so it's hard for the
yeah.
people that know me as the speaker who used to talk about his military stuff to even fathom why I would divorce this wonderful guy, let alone be public about, his personality.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well,
So,
your book, The Prince Was Wrong. Now,
right.
that's a pretty striking title. So, what does The Prince Was Wrong mean to you? Oh, there's the book.
There's the
Perfect.
book.
I love the cover.
Thank
Excellent.
you. Thank
So,
you.
what does that mean to you now? The Prince Was Wrong.
Well, it's called the Prince because that's his nickname, but he also comes from Germanic royal, Germany used to be divided up into a lot of princedoms, and that was his German lineage. So,
Ah,
he always went by the prince. And, I think my granddaughter came up with the title because he always thought he was right,
yes.
but clearly he's not always right.
Right.
And, and so
Yeah.
it's just kind of spoof on that because here's Mr. Wonderful. And if you could see a close up of the cover of the book, his crown is shattering all over the floor. So,
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Interesting.
So, the prince
Well,
was not
many,
always right.
no. Well, many women are taught to believe that love means loyalty, patience, forgiveness, endurance. What does endurance, or when does endurance become self-abandonment?
Well, I've learned one of the best lessons I've learned in all these marriages is like you have to love yourself and you have to stand up for yourself. And if leaving the situation is the best way for you to take care of yourself, that doesn't mean you're jumping ship, yes, but to save your life.
Right.
And that he doesn't deserve your loyalty anymore. If he's hitting you and your child, if he's running your finances if he's doing all these things, and that's the composite of all of them, but it's like where do you come into that? How is that in your best interest to let him just ruin your life or let them ruin your life numerous times?
Mhm.
That doesn't help your self-esteem. It doesn't create the best, that's you're doing what he needs, what he wants, but being in a happy, and even if you stay in a marriage, it's like you need to be able to be equal and on equal footing and be uplifting both people. It's not
Yes.
just one spouse over the other. It needs to be up here because that's uh-uh. I totally, need it's got to be equal for me.
Yes.
But it took me a long time to realize that I'm worth having that. I haven't found it yet, but I'm worth having it. And
Yes.
that's the best thing you can do for yourself. And my therapist said that leaving the last one was very life-giving for me because I'm finally doing life on my terms.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you also talk about breaking generational patterns. So,
Right.
what patterns did you recognize in your family line and how did they show up in your life?
So I think I mentioned it, but
Yeah.
my grandmothers, as I was doing research for my new book, my grandmothers would told me that well, I didn't necessarily love him, but he was a really nice guy and, he was kind and we got along. So we had a lovely marriage. Nobody ever said he was my great love, but it
Oh,
was like, you want to get out of your
yeah.
parents' house. And there weren't a lot of options in the 1800s, early
No, of
1900s,
course.
you know, and you're in this farming community. So everybody seemed to meet somebody at the square dance at church, but it was like,
Yeah.
okay, he's the best option, and he was kind to me and he didn't step on my feet when we danced and, he didn't beat me up when we were married and he didn't cheat on me. And so their things was like, we liked each other, we got along and that was as good as it got. And it's
Mm.
like, well, that sucks because that was me. I settled. So that was a big pattern, and now
Ah,
through my working with my dead grandmothers, it's like we've broken that pattern. And I'm
yeah.
hoping that has stopped with me and that my
Yeah.
daughter never has another crappy relationship or marriage
Yeah.
and that my
Yeah.
grandchildren don't start. So,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and think, I was just saying, thankfully, there were some good patterns that I realized it's like, oh, that grandmother, they like to sew, they like to bake, da 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 da. So some of those fun, creative things have
Yeah.
gone down, moved down through the lines too. So,
Yes. Yes. Oh, for sure. Absolutely. There's good
yeah,
and bad. And it's just waking up and realizing um uh what's happened. And
right.
like you say, you're doing it for now you could do it for your daughter and your grandkids and I'm in the same way. My tagline for women like me is stopping generational trauma one story at a time. So I'm
Great.
with you on
Super. I
that.
know.
I am with you on that. Yeah. So, what role did writing play in healing?
Thank you. I didn't think of it that way when I wrote the first book. I just,
No.
somebody had said, well, why don't you write your story? I was like, oh, okay. But I found, especially as I did the second book and now the third book, it's like I can write about this and explain it, what I went through to people. So it was more like the sharing the experiences. And then I journal a lot. I try to journal every day. So just for me, the process of writing and talking about it, and then I could let it go. And so, and
Yeah.
I don't think of myself as a victim. Yes, I went through some crappy, some horrendous, I lived through it. I'm fine. Would I choose to be married 7 times again? No. Do I advocate that? No.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm not the only person in the world who's been married 7 times or more. So I'm
I
finding,
actually, I actually, I wasn't sure whether I was going to say it, but my best friend has been married 7 times.
oh my goodness. Yeah. And
Yes.
see, there's
So
a,
you're
there's
not the
a,
only one.
oh, thank you. Well, you have Liz Taylor and Zsa Zsa Gabor and Mickey
Yeah.
Rooney. And there's even a book, and I don't know if she's a real actress, but there's a book about an actress about the seven husbands of Somebody Hugo.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was a great story. But it just I found that the writing has been very healing. And it's I don't know how to totally explain it, but I can see on paper, oh, here's the lessons that I learned.
Yes.
And this is because this is what I want people to see. Number one, that we're not alone. Number two,
Yes.
find the way that will help you go through the process. So for me, it was therapy and writing, and some talking because I had some things I needed to share with my daughter and my older sisters. Like, oh, you never knew, but this happened,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so that's really helped. And now that I'm done with book three and it's about to launch, now my older sister and I are working on a cozy mystery series, and it's like
Oh,
all of a sudden these creative juices are just going. And I
yeah.
feel free to write fiction. And I never thought, oh, I can't write fiction. I'm not that creative.
Yes.
I can
Yeah.
knit, I can bake, I can do all that, but I can't write fiction. Well, now I'm writing fiction and I'm having a ball.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So you've written about your life as a prison wife.
I
What
have.
did that experience teach you about love, loyalty, and losing yourself?
Mm. I would tell people don't do that. Probably there's a lot of prison wives that I met, they knew their guy before he went to prison, so they were already in love with him or they'd been friends before. So that's kind of different. I would say if you're young, especially if you don't know the guy, I wouldn't, bless him. I mean, there's some okay guys in there that are in there for the wrong reasons, and just some guys, even though
Yeah.
that have turned their lives around. But it's a hard life, and especially it's a hard life because they want you to go visit all the time. So, I mean, except for when mine was like a 10-hour drive away, I would go visit him every weekend. And not necessarily both days of every weekend, because, like,
Hmm.
one day's enough. I need a day off myself.
Of
I work
course.
all the time. Um, so it's hard and it is a financial drain because you're paying
Mm.
for visiting, you're paying for driving there, and if you have to, sometimes he's been places where I've had to pay for a hotel because then I go, it's far enough so you go for the whole weekend. You're paying for the visiting, the food in visiting, and then if you've got kids that we didn't have, but if you have kids, then you got to pay for your kids to eat, and you're wrangling your
Mm.
kids in the visiting room, and you're in a big room with a bunch of people, and there's no privacy, you know. And it was many years till we got the, 2-day overnight visit thingies. And but it's a difficult life because not, you say that, and most all my client, pretty much most of my like clients and stuff, they knew that's who I was, and it's like, they didn't really judge me. If they did,
Yeah.
we didn't bring it to work, but people look at you kind of differently when you're talking about, oh, my husband's in prison, and you know, so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not like he was selling drugs in there and sending me drug money home and helping the family income. I was, I built
You
up
mean it
my
wasn't
business.
Goodfellas?
No, no.
No.
And and back in the early days of his prison life, they had really good hobby programs. So you could make cool things and sell them, to the guards or in the gift shop that most of the
Yeah.
prisons had. So he was making like elaborate doll houses and stuff and selling them for hundreds of
Wow.
dollars. And that was before I
Wow.
knew him. But so there were opportunities, and like some guys make
Yeah.
jewelry and stuff. So there were
Hmm.
legitimate ways to make money to send home to your family.
Right.
When I met
Yes.
him, that was not the case. So I built my business up, and I paid for all the visiting. I paid for all the repairs at the house, and
Mm.
like I said, it wasn't like I lived in a tiny house and that didn't need anything. It was a 100-year-old house that needed stuff all the time.
Yes,
And
for
so
sure.
it was difficult, and it
Wow.
isolates you from your family. My family
Hmm.
never knew him before we got married. My daughter met him at our wedding, but it's like, okay, do I spend the holiday with him or my family? Can I split the holiday? It kind of depended on where he was
Mm.
stationed, at the time. Um, for quite many years, the prison was only a couple hours from my family, so I could see him and then go to their house for the rest
Yeah.
of the holiday. So but they weren't happy. And it's like my daughter said, Mom, we just wanted to shake you. I
Aw,
was like, I am so
yeah.
sorry. I wish you would have shaken me,
Yeah.
before it got in too deep. So,
Yeah. Wow. Well, your first memoir you wrote is Midlife Magic. Is that
yes,
correct? And it
it
includes,
is.
that's a beautiful cover too.
Thank
So it
you.
includes UFO sightings, spirits, elements, and magic. How did spirituality or the unseen world support your healing?
When I met, thankfully, the best part of meeting number seven is that it helped open my eyes up and I left the Mormon church. So
Ah,
that just happened. It's like, and then I started learning about magic and witchcraft, and especially as a positive, I only use positive magic. And I learned about elementals in the fairy realm, and I had experiences seeing and experiencing spirits before I met him, and then that came alive again. So it just speaks to my soul.
yes,
Speaks to my
yes.
soul. And I'd never thought about the UFO stuff, but that's what he did in the military. He and his dad were involved with that part of the military.
Oh,
So I got to learn, and
interesting.
I saw UFOs once I learned more about that from him. And then he was explaining to me about the military's involvement with all that. And so I learned about a lot of non-human species, and that's pretty cool, interesting information for me. And I just love that. And I still believe in all that
Yeah.
today. And I
Yes.
still have a very magical practice, and it's just part of my life.
Yes.
I talk to the
So,
trees and the flowers and everything when I'm walking,
oh,
and the
so do you
spirits.
think that that was ingrained in you as you throughout your life? But I would imagine in the Mormon church, it was not something you'd want to be talking about.
Yeah, it's funny because the Mormon church is fully aware, all the major churches are fully aware of space stuff and alien presence,
Right.
the reality of aliens. They just
Yeah.
don't talk about it from the pulpit, but they're fully
Uh,
involved in it. They're
uh,
very aware of it. They go to conference, they're very aware of it. And they
yes.
often help deal with they often work with the military around those issues. So it's very interesting that
Interesting.
they all keep various, the Vatican, the Catholic Church has a couple of their own observatories. So, they're very interested in all that stuff.
Yeah. Interesting.
Um, but
Yeah.
and the Mormon Church also believes very actively in the spirit world, and that they don't promote like sitting around at a seance or anything, and I don't do that anyway. But they have no problem, I don't think, with understanding that the spirit world might just be right there. And,
Yes.
so it's not
Yeah.
some far, far away. But I've also
Yeah.
learned different things about the spirit world now that I'm you know,
Yes.
not in the
Yeah.
Mormon church. So I
Yeah.
believe differently from the doctrine. But
Yes.
I do love to be able to be in a room. It's like, oh, there's a presence here.
Yeah.
and
Yes. Yeah.
and I can't talk directly to them, but I work with a channeling medium and I can talk to them that way. But I
Yes.
can see them. I see them as shadows, or just I can feel the presence. I've
Uh,
have other friends that can, would see their full, like what they looked like when they were alive. So
yeah. Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
it's
Well,
amazing.
yeah. Well, you describe yourself as a survivor, resilient, and someone who loves herself enough to create her best life. What
Yes.
does self-love look like for you today in everyday life?
For me, it's being uh, agreeing to work less, not being a
Yeah.
workaholic. And it's okay to start retiring. I can't fully retire. I need to supplement my Social Security, even though it's a, I just, because I choose to pay my taxes and have money for travel. I could probably
Yes.
live on it, but I want a little slush. And I didn't have a retirement fund because I was self-employed, and the guy's in prison, so my retirement dream went out the window with him.
Yeah.
Um, but that's okay. It would have never happened anyway. So it's about taking care of yourself. It's about going on my walks. It's about realizing that I am a lovable person, whether I'm sitting here by myself with me and the cat. It's okay. And it's okay to feel my feelings, and it's
Hmm.
okay to have crappy, it's okay to feel sad and lonely when that happens. But I get out in my neighborhood, it's like, oh yeah, it's a nice day. This is really cool. But I also, it's like I go get a massage once a month, and I'm now starting to travel. And so I do things to take care of myself that lift my soul, or I'll buy that yarn for that new knitting project I want to do, and
Yeah.
I read a lot of books. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just do some things that feed my soul. And
That's perfect. Absolutely. So what do people often misunderstand about women who have been through multiple toxic relationships?
they often, I think it's like, well, how could you how could you stay with that guy? Why didn't you leave sooner, or why didn't you call the cops? It's really hard to do that because, number one, if you don't have money, it's hard to leave. And
Yes.
many times I could go move back in with my family until I got myself back on my own feet. So I wasn't, burdened with a lot of rent and stuff like that. That helped a few times. Um, and and when my daughter was young, her dad had committed suicide, and I was living
Oh,
with my family. So I wasn't having to pay rent necessarily, but I also had widow's survival benefits and things. So I didn't have to go back to work right away. So that was really
yeah.
nice. But a lot of people think, well, how could you stay with that guy? He's such a jerk, or he's hitting you. It's like, why? Because it's not as easy to leave. And if your self-esteem is in the toilet, excuse me, it's like it's
Yeah.
hard to leave.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what the resources are available, you don't know your plan of action. So it's like one of some of the things I tell people is like, know who you can run to, know who you can go get help from, call the cops like I didn't if you need to, like, do the things that will protect you and your children.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it's not
Yeah.
easy. It's not
No,
easy.
it's not easy. And I think that, we can't, there's just no judgment because unless you've walked in someone's shoes, how can you know? And you know, I don't know. I know people sometimes wonder why, but until you're in that situation, because
Right.
it's not like you're healthy. It's like you've been bombarded with all of this. They push you down, the negativity. You're not the vibrant person you once were.
No. And especially if you're abused, it's like then 5 minutes later, or later, whatever, it's like, oh, I love you, I'm so sorry, blah 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 blah. It's like, oh, you just hit my kid and I. Oh, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again. And you want to believe that.
Yes, 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 for sure. Yeah,
You want to believe that.
yeah. Well, what does thriving look like for you now?
Well, especially because I am older, I'll be 72 at the end of July.
Oh, you look spectacular.
Thank you. Yep. And I have cut back some clients, so I'm having more free time, and I'm really having fun marketing this new book that's coming out. And I have I have some in-person events planned for that, and I've got some day trips that I'm planning for the summer, and I've got some travel things. I've already been on one cruise this year, so and then my daughter and I are going to New Hampshire in the fall because she has a speaking engagement. And I said, well,
Oh,
why
nice.
don't I come and we do fall in New Hampshire? And I've lined up a book signing while I'm there. So,
Wow, good for you.
so it's just, means it's like I'm giving myself permission to not work 12 hours a day. And it's like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. I can stop working now. And
Yes, yeah,
let's pull out the book or the knitting project and watch our favorite show or something.
yes,
So I
exactly.
can do what I want to do. And
Yeah.
and I found, I belong to a, well, it's an international, but a women's publishing group. So, I have events with them, or, online things. So I
Oh,
belong part of a publishing community, writing, publishing. So I have a lot of author friends. And then locally, there's a bookstore that hosts a lot of author events. So and I do silent writing there. So I'm trying to get myself out there because I work home at home alone. So it's like, I need some
yes,
friends. So, I'm
yes.
starting to make friends, especially in
Yeah.
my writing community. And that's really nice. So,
Yes, for sure. Yeah, yeah. It's hard on a lot of women these days. Even myself, I work at home. I mean, I'm married. My husband
right.
comes home, but but still, to have your, we need girlfriends,
Yes.
and so I've joined networking groups and
Oh,
business
good.
networking groups, and so I've made friends that way, and so I'm saying this because if there's anyone out there who's feeling lonely, like what we've just been discussing, there's find a networking group, or like you say, an
Yes.
author group. Like, what is it that you love to do? Find a bunch of people that are doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the dating apps are not working. I'm just going to put it out there. The dating apps are not working properly. And I've researched, I need to start like joining some meetup groups for people my age. It's like, those are a lot cheaper than the dating apps. And I'm
Exactly.
hoping that that will, meet me some friends too. But
Yeah.
I found some day trips in, this area near Portland, and oh, we're going to go up the river, or we're going to go out to the coast, and a travel agency, host organizes the
Yes.
whole thing. It's like, good, I don't have to drive, and I'll be with other people that want to do the same thing. So,
Yeah.
you know, I
That
might
sounds
as well
perfect.
create my own fun activities and just do what because my daughter lives nearby and
Yeah.
we see each other a lot, but she's got her own life.
Yes, exactly. No, for sure. Well, I want everyone to know that we are going to have Jo Ann's information in the show notes. So if you'd like to grab her books, we'll have links so you'll be able to reach out to her, or know where you'll be able to purchase those books from. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. So Joanne, if your books could sit beside one woman tonight who feels trapped, ashamed, confused, what would you want them to whisper to her?
You're not alone. You are okay just the way you are, and take care of yourself and love yourself and do what you need to do.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful message. Yeah, for sure. Well, I have loved our conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great. And yeah, so I will put all of her information in the show notes, you guys. So
And
grab those books, have a look. Oh, look at that. What is that? Wisdom from
this is the
me.
new one that's coming out. Wisdom from my grandmothers.
Oh, that's beautiful. So when is this one out?
This comes out July 2nd, so 2 weeks.
Oh, I was going to say, because that's your proof you're
That
showing
is
us,
my
right?
proof copy, yes, but it's
Yes.
coming out in 2 weeks, so
So how
very
many books
excited.
do you have before we
I
go?
have I have three published books, including the new one, and a healing journal that I did to go with the Prince book, the Narcissist book, so people could journal if
Oh,
they wanted to. So I have four
lovely.
things published, and then
Lovely.
now I'm working on the fun mystery stuff.
Yes, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
It's funny because I've never written that either, that genre, and I sometimes think I should give it a try. I might be pretty good at it.
Well, I took a class to learn the rules,
Yeah,
and then my sister and I just brainstorm all the ideas, who are and it's funny because the characters are all our family members and our friends.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then we just, okay, now who's going to be the killer, and who's going to be all the false suspects, and we watch a lot of mysteries, and we both read a lot
Ah,
of mysteries. We sat on our cruise and go, okay, what about this and what about this? And
oh. Well, good luck.
thank
Yeah, and
you.
when you ladies get it written, let's do another podcast and we'll
You
promote those
betcha.
books as well.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
wow, you're welcome. Okay, everyone. Well, unfortunately, our time is up. I want to thank you for being here, and hopefully, we'll see you in the next episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. Bye bye, everybody.